Welcome to Hybris Conversations. My name is Suresh Kochartan. The Keshavananda Bharati case is said to be a landmark in India's legal history. Many a legal student, even when they start studying, first come to know about this case and of course study in detail about it. It happened ages ago. But what is that case all about? Why is it talked about even now? Why are lawyers referring to that case recently? To discuss all this and more, we have with us Mr. K. Rajendran, a lawyer by profession who deals with corporate law in the High Court and the Supreme Court, and of course, a company secretary by qualification. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rajendran. At the outset, let me ask you, every legal student, every student who studied law, I heard one of the first thing they actually are told about is this very, very famous Keshavananda Bharati versus the state of Kerala, and they kind of get into it and the depth of it, but many people outside this legal fraternity are not really aware of what this case is all about. What are the origins of this case? When did it start?
I'll come to that particular case. We will talk about the significance of Keshavananda Bharati's case in detail as far as the origin and how the case concluded. After 1973, no student of law in the country would read his degree without reading the judgment of Keshavananda Bharati, or he would have at least heard about Keshavananda Bharati. Now, the Keshavananda Bharati case laid something known as doctrine of basic structure. So, Keshavananda Bharati's case is also known as basic structure case, doctrine of basic structure case. Now, when we talk about it today, we would be paying homage to Keshavananda Bharati, who left this world barely a week ago, 6th of September. Now, who was Keshavananda Bharati? Keshavananda Bharati was a seer, head Madhadipati of Idanir Mutt, which is in Kasaragod district of Kerala. Idanir Mutt is a Hindu monastic institution belonging to the Parampara, that is successors of Tottagacharya. Tottagacharya was one amongst the first four disciples of Adi Shankaracharya. Keshavananda Bharati has become the head of this mutt way back in 1961, when Keshavananda Bharati was barely 20 or 21 years, and he left this world at the age of 79. Now, the case which was filed by Keshavananda Bharati, decided by Supreme Court, precisely on 24th of April 1973. From then until today, it is a case which is live and dynamic for everything as far as the constitutional issues are concerned, touching upon the fundamental rights or fundamental structure of the Constitution. Always this case throws light to come to a conclusion on the conflicting issue.
Now, the case actually, Mr. Rajendran, just to bring you back into the focus, that the case started basically as a land dispute or a land acquisition dispute but then it snowballed into something very, very big. So,
yes,
please correct me if I'm wrong there.
I'll throw light on that. What was the case which was filed by Keshwananda Bharati? That is quite interesting to look at. In 1970, the government of Kerala attempted to acquire the properties of the mutt under the Kerala Land Reforms Act, which was promulgated in 1963, which also had an amendment sometime in 1969. Keshwananda Bharati has challenged this attempt of the government of Kerala before the Supreme Court by filing a writ petition under Article 32 of the Constitution, challenging or taking the plea that it violates his fundamental right to religion under Article 25, his liberty to practice a particular denomination under Article 26, more and most importantly, his fundamental right to property under Article 19(1)(f) then existed, which was a fundamental right, and under Article 31. This is what the challenge which was brought before the Supreme Court by Keshwananda Bharati. Now, before we go into what went into when the case was dealt by Supreme Court, what all developments have taken place, and why this case has got significance on other, mainly the amendment pass of the parliament, etc., I will deal with. Before that, in order to understand that, we need to understand what is the basic structure of our constitution.
So that's where I think Indira Gandhi actually brought in a series of laws, including bank nationalization and other issues,
yes,
which basically tampered with this basic structure of the constitution. But how do you link a Kerala Land Acquisition Act into a central government case? Because why did you go to the Supreme Court directly? Why not the High Court? I mean, there was also this talk, we was asked in one of the interviews, why did you go directly to the Supreme Court and not the High Court? Because usually the Supreme Court would throw it back to the High Court. But I believe he was convinced that it was directly he had to go. But initially, I think he had gone to the Kerala High Court, which had actually negatived him, and then he went to the Supreme Court. Please go on.
Before this particular case itself, this land reforms of Kerala was challenged before the Kerala High Court, and that was carried before Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has upheld the decision of Kerala High Court, and the integrity of the reason why he has gone to Supreme Court directly under Article 32, I will explain each development chronologically. Before that, let me just tell you, in order to understand this well, we need to understand what was the basic structure of the Constitution. What is the basic structure of the Constitution? Our Constitution basically starts with a preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign democratic republic. Sovereign democratic republic. This is what was there in 1970 when he went to Supreme Court. Of course, by 42nd Amendment, which was brought in 1977, the words socialist and secular were added between the words sovereign and democratic. Secure, now further, all citizens, justice, social, economic and political. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. Equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individuals and the unity of the nation. After the word unity of nation, integrity was also added by 42nd Amendment. in 1977. Now, more or less, we get the basic structure of our constitution from the preamble itself. When we trace the history of making the preamble, there is a unique proposition which you will find, that not only the constitution was framed in the light of preamble, eventually the preamble was settled in the light of constitution. So, preamble of the constitution more or less gives the broader picture as far as what is the basic structure of our constitution. Now, keeping that in mind, I will refer to one or two other articles which are important, and they were dealt by Supreme Court in detail. Article 368 of the Constitution gives power to the Parliament to amend the Constitution. Now, Article 13, which is a part of Part 3 of the Constitution, Part 3 of the Constitution, right from Article 12 to 35, deals with fundamental rights. Article 13 states that any law which is brought into existence by the state will not take away or abridge any right which is given under this part, that is under Part 3.
I think that also comes from the fact that we had the Golaknath case also.
I'll come to that. I'll come to each one of them. So, Article 13, whether any law which existed prior to Constitution, that is prior to 26th of January 1950, when the Constitution was put into effect, or any law which would be brought out subsequent to that, will have the limitation of Article 13. Now, the Part 3 of the Constitution deals with fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are paramount. It is something like breathing, the breath we have. Fundamental rights are considered so important that any violation of it, deprivation by the state, any citizen can knock the door of even highest judiciary of the country, Supreme Court, under Article 32 directly. Of course, under Article 226, he can also approach the High Court. Now, under Article 32, subclause 2, Supreme Court has got ample power to give order, direct, issue writs in respect of any violation of fundamental right that is found. Article 32(4) says that the right guaranteed under Part 3 shall not be suspended except as otherwise provided for by the Constitution. Now, Article 358 and 59 are the circumstances under which these fundamental rights can be suspended but cannot be taken away, cannot be abridged. The word used is suspended. Now, 358, during the time of emergency, fundamental rights can be suspended. Under 359, fundamental right cannot be enforced. Now, various decisions of Supreme Court describe fundamental right as an organic right, natural right, or a human right. Now, you would have got the feel of what exactly is the importance of fundamental right. Now, I will now speak about Article 31. Article 19(1)(f) recognized the right to property as a fundamental right then. And under Article 31, one could have private property, own the property, possess it as he likes it. That is the kind, and this is part of Part 3 of the Constitution under the fundamental right. Now, if you look at the first amendment which was brought in by the Parliament on 18th of June 1951 was amending Article 31, and that amendment was made in with retrospective effect. So, ever since Constitution was brought in, this amendment was made effective. Now, what is that amendment which was brought in? Article 31 was divided into Article 31A and 31B. Under 31A, the law could be made in pursuance of Article 39. Article 39 falls under directive principles to be followed by the state, particularly 39B and C says that the state shall follow the principles of policies which would be for the common good, distribution of resources, even concentration of property in the hands of some, but would be taken by the state for the distribution of those who don't have, etc., etc. Now, 31A and 31B was brought in by way of the First Amendment. 31B empowers states to come up with the law to achieve the objective laid down under Article 39B and C. 31B, under 31B, very many states have come up with Land Reforms Act.
So that is where the entire thing dovetails into the Supreme Court.
Now 31B, when it was introduced, all those law which the states would be coming up would be placed under Schedule 9. Schedule 9 was also included. And once that becomes part of Constitution, part of Schedule 9, that will not be deemed as void even if it touches Part 3 of the Constitution. Part 3, that is fundamental right. That is what 31B speaks about.
So here, Mr. Rajendran, we will take a short break here at this point in time when we get back into the main part of the discussion. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. For more news updates, please do watch Hybiz News.